North Carolina. We were, Sharon and I went to Cleveland, Ohio, and we were in the northeast part of the city, area called East Lake, and we were going door to door every day, from 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, visiting people who were on a list, a special list. We were given iPads that had a special program on it, and that program was had the maps of the neighborhoods we would go to visit, every street, and each street had every house, and every house was marked, and when we pressed it with our finger, then the names of the people that lived at that house and their age and everything would come up on the screen. So as we walked up to the door, we knew what to expect when we knocked on the door, who would be coming to the door, and then we would ask for them, and then we would talk about, we're with a group called Defending Main Street, and we're out trying to find good conservative people that are going to be voting in the primaries. And especially, have you thought about voting for Dave Joyce? Because Dave Joyce, when we talk about this guy, and it was very interesting. It ended up that we went to some houses 3 times, the same houses. And sometimes I met the same person a second or a third time, which was very unusual. But for me, it seemed amazing because we were going to so many different places all the time, because there was a team of about 12 or 14 of us. And it's very interesting. And some people were very honest about their feelings, about whatever, about someone coming to their door, about Donald Trump or Ted Cruz or Hillary Clinton or the weather or politics in general, especially politics in general. So we got many earfuls, but it was a very interesting experience, and I learned a lot from it. And then I didn't realize, I was there for a week and a half, 2 weeks before I realized that the Republican National Convention, where the final decision, who will represent the Republican side to be the President of the United States, I didn't realize that it was taking place in Cleveland. And so then I realized, wow, being here in the city of Cleveland at this time, doing this political stuff is, very symbolic, because this is also the place, the one city in America where the person who will represent the Republican Party in the overall election will once and for all be decided at that convention. So the city of Cleveland is a really interesting place. Not to mention the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, of course. I did drive past there, but I didn't go inside. But today, I'm actually not going to give a service as such. I want to talk about one central point that continually comes to my mind, and that is, what is it that distinguishes our movement and our church and our understanding of God and of the Bible and of Jesus and everything? What is it that distinguishes us from other people? And one thing that I'm constantly reminded of is, because of the nature of what our teaching is, the divine principle explains and teaches us a very deep understanding about the providence from the point of view of the very beginning. Why did God even create this universe? What was His intention and purpose? And then what was His plan and His schedule for things to take place? And then when He created the first ancestors, what happened to them? And because of what happened to them, because of their broken relationship with God and with this archangelic being that became Satan, then we understand history became a history of restoration. And then for thousands of years, God worked a special providence. And then 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ came as the Son of God, as the Messiah, to save fallen mankind, to reconnect fallen mankind back to God. And he lived a very short life, 33 years old, and was murdered and died on the cross. And then, after he reappeared to his disciples, they went out and they testified, truly, truly, this man was the Son of God, and that we should believe in him and have faith in him, and he is going to come again, and he will bring salvation to the world. Christ will come again and bring salvation to the world, and we should believe that with all our heart. And if you believe that with all your heart, then you too will be saved. And 2,000 years has passed. And then, our movement comes with Reverend Sun Myung Moon, teaching this divine principle, explaining to us what is the real meaning of the Messiah. What exactly did Jesus come to accomplish? What was he able to accomplish during his lifetime? And what was it that he couldn't fulfill? That is the reason why he said, I must come again. Why does the Messiah have to come a second time? And, of course, we know, the meaning of salvation through changing the lineage and being saved. So what this creates, the idea of why we need true parents, why the blessing of marriage and the holy wine ceremony, the changing of the lineage, and the meaning of all of this. What it does to us is it teaches us that we are responsible, that we are people who God needs to follow the course of restoration through indemnity and accomplish the purpose of God in our own lives. God wants to complete his original ideal. And God's original ideal is that each one of us is truly, truly his son or his daughter. And that every human being was designed and created to go through this growing period while we're alive in this earthly plane and to reach a certain capacity to love, a certain ability to love, so that when we die, when we pass away from this physical life, we will live eternally in a spiritual realm. And that realm is a realm of love and heart, connected to God as our parent. And that the purpose for our being here in this earth is to learn how to love and to become people of true love. Jesus Christ was the greatest example of a person who truly loved God and truly loved people. And really, the greatest commandment, love God with all your mind and all your heart. And then the second is like it, love other people. Have compassion, concern, care for other people. And then Jesus was the example. It didn't matter if you were a Roman, if you were a Jew, if you were young, if you were old, if you were a prostitute, if you were a Roman soldier, a citizen of Rome or Greece, or if you were one of the Pharisees or the scribes or the religious or the non-religious, or it didn't matter. Jesus set the example of loving everybody and teaching, look at the children, we should be like children, how innocent the children are. Why aren't we innocent like them? Jesus, his power, his greatness, his importance was because of his direct relationship with God as God's Son. But he said, you should be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. He intended to teach us all how to become like him in the way of love. So, we, members of the unification movement, it is ingrained in us. Some people call it being brainwashed. We weren't brainwashed. We were heart-washed. We were educated. We were made to understand that we have a responsibility to follow the Messiah, to follow his path and his pattern so that we can become like him and we can love like he loves and have the same relationship with God and with each other that they have, the true parents have with us. So we are responsible. We are responsible. And once we joined our movement, we began to feel that responsibility. And we carry it with us. And no matter what happens in our life, we can never escape the sense that I am responsible for the providence. I am responsible for God's will. I am responsible for the world. Isn't that how True Father led his whole life? From the age of 16, when he first experienced Jesus Christ, he lived his entire life with the sense, I am the Messiah. I am going to bring salvation to the world. If I don't do it, who will? And he had this different understanding of good and evil, a different understanding of Jesus, different concept about the fall of man and about restoration. And he began to teach and explain to us everything about the scriptures from the book of Genesis all the way through, Abraham's course and Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Adam and Eve, Noah's family, Abraham's family, all of the stories of the kings and David and Solomon and Saul and the entire history of restoration, and then the entire history of Christianity. How the scriptures became written and how Christianity, spread from Israel to Rome and through Europe and into all these countries, and then even understanding other religions. Why did the Prophet Muhammad appear where he did? Who was Buddha? Who was Confucius? What is their connection to God? It's all part of the divine principle. But Father carried with him his entire life. Whatever he was doing, wherever he was, he had the sense, I am responsible for God's providence. And that's how he educated us. And he made us. He took and collectively we lived and worked with him as representatives of God's people to accomplish God's will. And so we've always had that sense of responsibility. So we're taught that we are tribal messiahs. Tribal messiahs. And we should, just as there is the central Messiah, then we have to become like them. And we have to become true parents to our own children. Of course, to our own children, but not just to our children. True parents to our neighbors. True parents to our community. True parents to each other. And create a family. God's family. We are all part of God's family. We are nieces and nephews, uncles and aunts, cousins, and half-brothers and half-sisters and adopted sons and stepsons and true sons, and it's all a family of mankind, right? In God's eyes, we are all a son or daughter of God, and that makes us related to each other. We're related in that sense. But the difficulty in recent years has been, well, how do we practice that? What now? Now that, everyone has passed away, September 3rd, 4th, 2012, passed away, and the unification movement is going through these difficulties and these struggles, who's in charge of this, and, exactly what's the correct doctrine, etc. So what does it mean then to be the tribal Messiah? Well, yesterday at my home, we had a meeting with the board of our members, and we talked about this point. And I'm very happy to say that Stephanie Nishida and the Nishida family, Stephanie's been very moved by the content that she saw and heard about, and she shared it with us at the board meeting, and we decided, we really should learn this today. We need to be exposed to this today, because this is a key in how can I fulfill my responsibility of being a tribal Messiah. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch a video, and it is about a half hour long. And it's not designed to be a sermon, just to carry you to higher places. It's designed to educate and explain. So please prayerfully listen and learn. And then afterwards, I want Stephanie to come up and share a little bit from her heart of why and what she has been thinking and feeling. Because I feel God is really working through her at this time to give us some good ideas of what God is expecting from us. So these are Mother's words. Though you are in this clearer state, blessed, you still have responsibilities. Please consider this. Even if the water is pure, if it remains stagnant, the quality deteriorates and it begins to rot. Even though that water is pure, it has to move. It must flow toward the ocean. Living beings that are dying will revive wherever this true water of life flows. That is why it is necessary for tribal messiahs to act upon their responsibilities. The tribal messiah movement will become a huge wave. Let's watch this video.
Hello everyone, it's Damien Dunkley here, and I'm just going to take you through a very short version of a tribal messiahship registration presentation. That means just want to go through enough of the basics to inspire you to feel ready to start tribal messiahship today, or to rededicate from today, and it includes a few practical steps that I think you'll find helpful. So I'm just going to go straight into it and go through as succinctly as I can. First of all, this is Heavenly Tribal Messiah Wave. What that means is we should work together, and we should understand that every single little thing that we do, when we combine it together with our efforts and offer it up together, it will create this Heavenly Tribal Messiah Wave that Mother is talking about. So, first of all, we've got to appreciate that success for this is going to be more likely with unity of vision and purpose, including a basic system of communication and a commitment to just giving it a shot. Starting with vision, I thought it might be useful to anchor everything here in the motto. Now, usually if I give this presentation in person, I will include several quotes from true parents, but I've streamlined this presentation to be delivered in the shortest amount of time possible. But the motto is essential because this is a sense of our mission statement as a movement. But I'm also going to extract some simpler statements out of it right now. So first, let us become true owners of Chonilguk who practice true love in resemblance to our Creator, the Heavenly Parent. So this is about who we are, where we're going, and how we get there. Our identity is one family under God. That is who we are. Where we're going, or what we want to envision for ourselves, is God's love in every relationship. So that would be the outcome of all of the work that we're doing, to really feel and express God's love in every relationship, everything that we do. And finally, how we get there would be encapsulated in a Family Federation mission statement. And this is what we want to do. We want to unite as God's family by sharing the divine principle and marriage blessing of true parents, and expand the realm of God's love by sharing truth, beauty, and goodness. Okay, so what is a tribe? And what does tribal messiahship have to do with church? This is very important, and I think it's time to rethink it. Tribal messiahship, frankly, hasn't really been an organizational focus of our movement, and the pastor's role in it hasn't been clarified either. We tend to see our church structure in the past as this. You have the church, and you have leaders supporting the church, members supporting the leaders, and tribal messiahship seems to be just the responsibility of the members, and good luck. But we want to really think, how can we work together in a more effective way? Those that do tribal messiahship often feel isolated, and sometimes they purposely isolate themselves so as not to have to deal with, the hierarchies and the bureaucracies or the other issues they may perceive in relationship to the church structure. But if it's going to work, we should really apply the same principle in this that we applied when the church was growing. Or, for example, the things that we were doing that did bring success, when we were witnessing in the early days, or fundraising, whatever it was, when we were in a relationship, a healthy relationship with a central figure where, working in partnership, we would really stimulate the spirit world to work. The relationship between the church or the pastor and tribal messiah is very important. If you think of every member's ultimate destiny to fulfill tribal messiahship, and if the role of the pastor is to support the members, then the primary function of the pastor would be to support families to be successful in tribal messiahship. It's a partnership. And frankly, what this means is this is a redefinition of our culture. It doesn't take much to change this. Essentially, it just means, okay, if whoever's taking the role of the community leader or the pastor in the local community, one of their primary functions is to support the families to be successful, which actually means be successful in tribal messiahship. Father mentions in the Chansang Gyung that the purpose of the blessing is for the tribe. And so if we are not fulfilling that, if we are not loving and expanding True Parents Foundation into our tribe, then the very purpose of our blessing falls into question. And so this is really central to not only every family's responsibility, but of course our ministry on the community level, regional level, national level, and so on. All right, so you might want to pause the video just to pair share a little bit or discuss these very basic points if you'd like. In the meantime, what we want to do next is move on to talking about how we actually start tribal messiahship. First, let's look at a quote from Mother, which I think we do have time for here, because it really talks about taking ownership and activating what we know we should be doing. What she's saying here is, please consider this. Even if the water is pure, if it remains stagnant, the quality deteriorates and it begins to rot. Even though that water is pure, it has to move. That is why it is necessary for tribal messiahs to act upon their responsibilities. And here's where she says the tribal messiah movement will become a huge wave. So really the key term here is action. Now, again, we've heard from the pulpit several times throughout the last couple decades about home church, tribal messiahship, etc. But now it's time to just roll up our sleeves and talk about a few practical steps about how to do it. The first question many of us have is, where are all these new members going to come from? It's worth reflecting on a famous saying from the East, which says that to accidentally bump shoulders with someone on the street takes 2,000 years of preparation. So what we're talking about here is there's no randomness in the relationships that we have around us. This means respecting the current personal sphere of influence that we have. Yes, we want to meet new people. Yes, we want to witness and reach out to new friends and new faces. But the truth is, how much are we even paying attention to the people already in our lives? And if you consider the value of the blessed central family, then surely from God's viewpoint, every person that you come into contact with is a precious opportunity to connect with true parents through you. Now, we may be talking about your bus driver, your neighbor, your children's teachers, your children's friends and their families, any and everyone in your sphere of influence. So what you want to do is recognize that these are really your spiritual children in waiting. Okay? It doesn't mean that there's not more people for you still to meet. And remember, this also includes people in your bloodline, in your sphere of influence, both in your blood, family, relatives, and in your community. It's not limited to people who live geographically close to you. This can be anybody that you know anywhere in the world and that you can connect with through a computer even. So this is simply saying, let's respect the amount of work that God has done to now to prepare the people that are already in our sphere of influence, and so that when we add new people to our sphere of influence by witnessing or by engaging with new friends, that we can do so on the foundation of actually already loving and taking care of the people that we know now. And this actually makes it much easier to start our tribal messiahship or rededicate or re-engage with those that are already around us if we have this kind of mindset. All right, so what we want to invite you to do now is recommence your tribal messiahship in this very simple way. And in a minute, we're going to talk about 5 simple steps how to do that. First, I want to talk about something extremely important, and it's the root of this approach to tribal messiahship. And it's about love. More specifically, it's about loving intentionally. And we do want to just share quickly another slide from Father here. The secret of witnessing to a person is to see him often with your eyes, talk to him often with your mouth, and listen to him often with your ears. Be concerned about him often with your heart and give him much. What Father is saying is that consistency and repetition and just being in people's lives, loving them, is essential. It's not just something we do on a Saturday morning and then pass it off to a follow-up team. It's not just something we do on a campaign and then have pray for them from a distance. It's important that we stay in people's lives if we're really going to be effective. Okay, together we can make a wave of love, all right? Let's talk about love, intentional love, okay? True Mother talks about the logic of love. We should think of this as really redefining the single most important currency of our activity. We can reach out and intentionally love someone within our tribe every day. If you have a list of people that you know and you pick a person and do something for them, whether that be inviting them for dinner, phoning them, messaging them on Facebook, we can count each of these actions as an effort towards loving someone intentionally. Each single act counts for something. We should even measure it, mark it on a piece of paper, just so that we can look back at the week, look back at our month, and reflect on how many people have we reached, how many things have we done for them, and where are we taking that relationship to. By measuring our effort in loving people, it will change what we focus on, both in our personal lives, our family lives, as well as our community culture. I'm talking about our church culture. It may seem a little strange at first to measure that or even report our love offering to our local pastor, but it's actually fundamental to our faith. It's really applying the divine principle. We may see it as a condition or a form of training, but really we're applying the divine principle by intentionally loving people and measuring that effort so that over the course of time we can see our progress and we can report our findings and how God is working through that effort. Let's look a little closer at loving people intentionally from the divine principle perspective. When we do it, we really feel warm and fuzzy, right? It stimulates our original mind. From the divine principle point of view, you can see on page 47 of the divine principle that the human mind has 3 faculties: emotion, intellect, and will. The human body acts in response to the commands of the mind. And when the body responds to the mind's emotion, intellect, and will, its actions pursue the values of beauty, truth, and goodness, respectively. So you may remember those words that we have in our mission statement, that we want to activate our life of faith through loving people through beauty, truth, and goodness. Usually when we think about witnessing, we think about the truth part. We think about sharing the divine principle or testifying. And of course that's central to loving someone. But we've heard it several times from Father that witnessing is much more than just sharing the truth. It's really about the heart. And so here we're looking at a very simple diagram that you might consider a love menu that you can refer to when you're activating your, applying your love and intentionally loving people in your tribe. Truth is about sharing the word, right? Or sharing your testimony, testifying about true parents and how that they've worked in your lives. Beauty, on the other hand, is about creating harmony, offering gratitude, resolving conflicts, or forgiving someone. And you've got acts of kindness stimulating your desire to do goodness, which is, being there for someone, serving or giving something to someone. And these lists obviously can go on. But it's easy and sort of beneficial to see that love is balanced, right? Love includes truth, but it's more than just bashing someone over the head with the truth or trying to inspire them with the truth. The balanced approach to witnessing should really be loving and everybody knows how to do that. We all know how to love one another and love other people. It's just about taking it more seriously and being intentional about doing it consistently. Okay? All right. Now, let's look at the 5 steps to tribal messiahship. That's going to kind of wrap up all the things that we want to do. And this is so easy, anybody can do it starting right now. But first we want to quickly review the global standards. Before we talk about what you're going to do, what is the ultimate goal that we're reaching for in doing tribal messiahship? This is according to international standards, okay? What does a tribe look like for us as unificationists? First of all, the heavenly tribal messiah is a Chonilguk citizen. Now this means that you are seeking to protect, in every day of your life, protect the lineage, protect the heart, protect public funds, living by and evangelizing true parents' words, and practicing tribal messiahship. So, Chonilguk citizen. Next, it's about blessing 430 couples or families across 3 generations, right? That means your children, your spiritual children, as well as their children and spiritual children. Now this includes any and everyone you've already witnessed to, so you can put those people down on your list right off the bat. Maybe that you already have several people in your tribe beyond your blood relatives and your children that you've already witnessed to. So you should put those people on your list. Now, because 430 is a large number of people, True Mother is encouraging us to accomplish this number by working together. Either working with 2 other families or in a trinity, or in a small church community. You might just all work together in a group. Ultimately, each family wants to accomplish 430 connected to them through this 3-generational chart here. But that doesn't mean that you can't start as a group. Start as an entire church. Maybe you have a small church community and it really makes more sense to just work together. You'll start to notice that if you have meetings together and you're being intentional about loving the people in your tribe, that your church community and ministry starts to evolve into really just being about tribal messiahship. Now, in terms of how we do it, we're free to experiment, and it's good to remember Mother is encouraging us to work together and bring the fruits together. Some of you might be having questions right now about overlap. Well, for example, if my children also tribal messiahs? Can they also do their 430? Well, yes, of course. Both your children and your spiritual children ultimately should. And then you'll wonder, well, is there going to be overlap of numbers? Yes, there will. And that's a happy problem to have, frankly. But the point is just understanding what are the global standards for the heavenly tribal messiah. It's right there on this one slide. And of course, we can share more details about that as well. Okay, so let's get to these 5 steps. We want to invite you to recommence your tribal messiahship by following these 5 simple steps starting right now. Number 1, make a condition. If possible, include your family. And I really recommend reading the Cheonseonggyang and the Pyeonghwagyang continuously with your family or with your tribal trinity group or your church group that's working together on tribal messiahship. There's incredible content in these books about tribal messiahship, witnessing and home church and education. But also, from these books, you will find all the lessons that we need in order to educate those in our tribe, educating our family, and so on. Beyond that, doing it brings about such an incredibly powerful spiritual condition that you will feel so energized and excited to share true parents and your faith with. Okay? So the first thing is doing a condition. Now you don't have to do a condition of 21 days or 40 days or 120 days before you do step 2, but it is, I think, essential to commit to step 1 right off the bat and start today. Step 2. make a list. This is about recognizing the people that God has already been laboring over for thousands of years, possibly, to bring in your sphere of influence. This list you might think is your list, your tribal list. But in reality, this is actually God's list, right? The list that God has been preparing for you. True parents have been working. The spiritual world has been working. Your ancestors have been working. Make the list, recognize who's already in your sphere of influence, and claim that as your tribe. Put it in a binder and claim that as your tribe right now. Okay? Step 3, very important, a step that's often, in fact more often than not, missed in the past. This is about offering your tribal report to your pastor or community leader. Let them know that you want to officially register as a tribal Messiah and enter into that partnership. Step 4 is about the love that we were talking about. Making a commitment to reach out to someone every day, someone from your list. Reach out to them every day and love them. Do something to love them. Look at that love menu slide that we were looking at and think about what is it that you can do today? What is your heart calling you to do right now for those people? And remember that even if you just do one thing a day or 3 things a day, look around you in the room right now. If everyone in your community was doing that once a day or 3 times a day for, let's say, an entire month, imagine how many lives you will have influenced, right? Imagine how meaningful the engagement of our community can become to the community at large. Do it for a month and then compare it to the month previous and recognize that by being intentional about this, you will have been so much more influential in people's lives than you were when you're kind of doing it maybe willy-nilly from time to time, but not really consolidating our effort, right? Think of the wave and think of doing this together. Not just with church members, you're doing it first yourself with your family, right? And then all the families doing it together. This is something that you can start right now. At the end of this presentation, you can text the first person that comes to mind and just give them a message of love, and you've already done it, right? And you can continue to do that. Step 5 is to continually offer it up. This is about keeping the reporting relationship with the pastor and this partnership, right? This is central to the keeping this going and keeping it alive. Okay? And how often you report or in what manners you report to your community leader or your pastor is ultimately your responsibility and your pastor's responsibility. But we are going to go really quickly through a couple of recommendations about what to do and what important information to share on a regular basis. Okay, so there it is, right? Proclaiming your tribe in this way and offering it to your central figure gives you the protection and spiritual support and becomes the spiritual power through which you can energize your mobilize and energize your spirit world to bring incredible results. God is working through that, and God will be showing us how to continue and how to develop further from there. Remember, also, reporting is not just, about reporting to your central figure and bringing the offering. We're actually, we need to share with True Mother practical stories about what's going on. How is God working in our lives, right? So how can we do that if we're just doing it quietly on our own and hoping Mother will find out? All right, let's quickly review these 5 steps. Number 1, make a condition. Number 2, make a list of the people in your sphere of influence. Number 3, report that to your pastor. Number 4, continue to love intentionally. And number 5, continually report. If you look at it, number 4 and 5 are really that's where the loop is. The infinite loop will continue to grow from there. So what we're really talking about is organizing ourselves in a principled way and simply loving people, right? However, many people might struggle with bigger questions that, what do I do next? How do I teach them divine principle? Or how are we going to manage them? Where are we going to bring them? These are all great questions, but we don't want to get hamstrung right off the bat. We want to start right now. We want to feel like I can do this right now, right? But in the interest of some of the questions that people tend to ask, let's go a little bit into detail about what the reporting might look like. Okay? It really needs to be life-giving. The report needs to be life-giving, and we want to keep it as simple as possible in order to do that. Remember, this is about the partnership between the pastor and the tribal Messiah. The purpose is not to share every detail, but just to keep the relationship alive and allow spirit world to be activated by, unity with common base. And this means that you're now talking with your pastor or community leader, not just about, who's next on the council, or who we, what are we doing for the bake sale, or what are we, who's singing the song for Sunday service, or, all of these kind of like quite, administrative issues. Right now, all of a sudden, the relationship with your pastor becomes about the lives of the people waiting outside the door right now. It becomes about the spiritual children, the people that we're discipling. That becomes the subject of the relationship. Surely it will be life-giving, right? You might wish to give the report to your pastor in a simple email. It would include the number in your tribe, list the total number in your sphere of influence, and specifically, how many people are you focusing on, right? You might list 100 people, but are you focusing on those 100 people this year? You may be praying for everybody, but who are you going to be loving and reaching out to intentionally every day? That might just be a list of 10 people or 12 people or 3 people. It's good that we know how many people that is. The next thing is you want to let them know how much have you done this week or this month for those people. How much effort have you made? Total interactions, whether they're texts or dinner parties or little divine principle things that you show them. Whatever that is, you want to record that and share that. And then finally, just consider one qualitative statement that you want to share. One paragraph that speaks to something that really speaks to you that week that happened, that's unique. Put it in a paragraph, so it's not just 3 numbers, but an actual paragraph of qualitative feedback for your pastor, right? Simple. Just the number in your tribe, how many you're witnessing to. And this is the report to headquarters, right? This is what we want to hear from the pastor. How many tribes do you have registered? How many are they witnessing to? And how many efforts are they reporting? Usually we tend to focus on the results. How many blessed this month? Or how many new members do we have? But because that doesn't happen every day, it gets very, disconcerting, or, it gets a little bit tiring to just report things that don't even change, right? Those things may change from month to month, or 6 months or year to year. But unless we're looking at stuff that happens every day, we're not really activating spirit world, right? We're not excited about it. That's the importance of reporting the efforts. So it might be that you've reached out in a week, you've reached out 20 times. Give that. Let your pastor know that. And so that the pastor can let us know that, so we can let mother know that, right? This is really activating the relationship. Okay, moving on real quick. Some of you may be wondering, right? Okay, I get it. I make a list. I love people. I let my pastor know. But pretty soon I'm going to be frustrated with, well, how do I teach them the divine principle? How do I tell them about true parents? Well, remember, first of all, you're doing the condition to read the Chansangyang daily. You're going to be inspired with a wealth of information to share with your guests, the people in your tribe. You could even sit down and have a little, Bible study or book study together with them, just from the content that we already have available to us. But you should know that we also are developing tools and resources for smaller communities and tribes to teach from home. Okay? Here's a little example of a new Divine Principles series that we're developing for you to be able to either play by video or download by PowerPoint and share with your friends and guests. We're talking about here in the lecture about how God is eternal, absolute, and one. So that means His will is one. And the Bible, which is an expression of His will, is also one. I'm giving you an example right now about of this lecture, right? Let's go through a few slides. Today, Christians who believe in the same God and the same Bible are divided into 400 denominations worldwide. Frankly, this is because key parts of the Bible are expressed in parables and symbols. Christianity doesn't need another human interpretation of the Bible, it needs God's interpretation. We need to go straight to the source so that we can allow God to tell us how to read the Bible, right? That way, we can have correct understanding of God's will and be able to respond to Him according to His desire. So actually, what I was just doing, guys, was reading from a script, okay? This script will become embedded in the PowerPoint, so whether you just play the video like you're watching now, or sit down with a friend or a group of people to go through it directly, that's up to you. You know, organizing divine principle in the church center is fantastic, but sometimes that's not possible. Or sometimes we just want to sit down at home or at a Starbucks and share the content directly with people, right? You know, what I'm doing with some of my friends, in fact, there's one brother who's on the other side of the country that I'm sharing with online. I just set up the PowerPoint on my computer and I invite him to a video conference call. And, you know, we share these slides and discuss together, and he's loving it. It's very easy to share the divine principle if you want to. And the truth is, we are all equipped to be able to do this. Okay? All right, one other area that's important to cover is what is the relationship between witnessing and tribal messiahship. And we're almost there, guys. This is pretty much the end here of this presentation, but it's important because we're doing these national witnessing revivals right now. And some people say, well, what's the difference between witnessing and tribal messiahship? Well, witnessing stems from tribal messiahship. I'd like to encourage everyone that's even interested at all in witnessing in actually starting first with reclaiming their tribal messiahship foundation, by re-engaging or reigniting their commitment to tribal messiahship. Then that means when we witness to people, we're actually witnessing from the foundation of our tribe being activated. It's a great way to introduce new people to our faith. It's a form of spiritual training. It brings us closer to God closer to our relationship with God and true parents. But ultimately, we should be connecting it to our tribal foundation. So whether it's the husband or the wife, or together as a couple going to witness, or maybe your son or daughter going out to witness for a week, or maybe you do it from time to time as with your church community, right? But you should understand, when I witness, I'm not going out to just have somebody join an institution where somebody else is going to educate them and take care of them. Maybe our church community has those facilities and things set up for the tribes to be able to lean on and rely on to educate and to help our tribe. Yes, that's what we want. But at the same time, I should be thinking when I'm witnessing, hey, would you like to join my family? Right? Would you like to join my tribe? This becomes, my experience in doing this, it makes for a much more genuine and heartfelt witnessing effort. It's not just a campaign, flash in the pan type thing, right? All of a sudden, this now connects to my tribal responsibility. And think about it, from the church leader's point of view, do you want 10 new members that you have to take, set up a witnessing team, a prayer team, a follow-up team, an education team to take care of? Or would you like 10 of your families in your community to bring one new member each? Already connected to a family, connected to those friendships, right? Yes, you may still help to educate and train those people, but they're coming to the church community now on the foundation of relationship with these separate families, these different tribes, maybe working together to bring these people. Nonetheless, they're connected much more deeply and much more familiarly, if that's a word. All right, let's review this 5 steps, right? Make a condition, make a list, report it, love the people on your list, and continue to report it. Continue to love and continue to report. We want to invite you to take 10 minutes right now. Okay, you can continue this at home. Maybe you want to just pray on this before you start it. But I promise you, if you just put some nice music on right now in the background and take a pencil and paper, each of you, if you're there with your family, that's great. Each of you can take a separate piece of paper. Each of you just write down 10 names, the first ones that come to mind. Don't think strategically. Don't think logically. think intuitively. Write down the first 10 people that come to mind. Chances are, those are the people that God wants you to focus on first. Okay? Don't even worry about what you're going to do for them next. Just consider who they are, pray on that list, and then together with your family or together with your church community, talk about these people, pray on these people. Who are these people? What are their names? Where are they? What are they doing? What do you think they need? And, from that type of prayer and meditative foundation of interest in them, sharing it together, then reach out to one of them. Send them a text before you leave. Write them an email. Consider what you're going to do this week or even today for that person, right? This is something that each of us can do. And sure, many of you might be thinking about, well, what do we do when we get to, 10 miles down the road? And what do we do when we get to 430? How are we going to take care of them? Happy problems, guys. Don't worry about it. The first thing is reigniting my tribal responsibility, right? As a family, and choosing to do it together. Because as Father said, our blessing is for the purpose of being effective in tribal messiahship. And I promise you, if you start this now, you will see results within 1 week, if not within 1 day of doing it, okay? So come on, guys, we're all tribal messiahs. Let's act like it. Let's support each other in doing it. Let's respect each other as tribal messiahs. And let's expect from each other as tribal messiahs. And when we gather next time, let's report our findings, report the ways in which God has been working in our lives, and share that with True Mother, okay? God bless you guys. Let's do it. Let's get to work. Your tribe is waiting for you. So let's create a true love, heavenly tribal messiahship wave right now. Adieu.
First time I've ever seen that video. I did not watch this before today. And I'm really impressed and inspired and encouraged by this. I feel very much inside my own mind and heart that this correlates to things that I've often tried to explain and teach in my sermons, that the essence is love. It's all about how can we love people. It's about relationships and love. And this is trying to explain in a very logical, very reasonable, very doable way how we can connect that love through the pastor's position and through connecting back to True Mother and doing, a simple reporting system. So it's very important. I believe it's extremely important. This has to come from inside your heart. This is, we live in an age, we've lived through a history of fallen mankind where people are being told from the outside what to do. It's all about having authority and dominion and control over other people and trying to live a life of controlling other people. But having a relationship with God is something, it might begin somehow in the outside through some education or through some other person's testimony. But ultimately, our relationship with God has to become deep, deep, deep inside of ourselves. So I have to feel a sense of, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I want to do. So please be clear, as the pastor, I'm not up here trying to say now all of us are going to do this and we're going to do it in this way. But I feel very inspired that this is a very clear thing that each of us should really sincerely pray about and reflect on and discover for ourselves. How can I incorporate these ideas in my daily life? So enough of me. I want to invite Stephanie Nishida here because she brought this to my attention, and I want her to share from her heart about her understanding of this video and how it came to her.
Those of you who know me know that I avoid public speaking like the plague, so I can't believe I'm actually standing up here. I'm just going to share a little bit of how, this came to my attention. Some of you may know that you know, on a monthly basis, we're reporting attendance and tithing and things like that. And Caroline takes attendance, and Asada-san helps a lot. And I report it on a spreadsheet that's shared by the district and then goes to headquarters. And ultimately, Father and Mother Moon have been aware of those numbers, how many people come to church and those kind of things. And a few months ago, this is the spreadsheet. A few months ago, a new section appeared that was called Tribal Messiahship. And the numbers were, we were supposed to fill in total sphere of influence, total core contacts, and total IALs. And I called the guy at headquarters and I said, what is this? What's an IAL? And he said, it's an intentional act of love. And I thought, well, that's really cool. And then I watched this video, and then I talked to John about it in January, but February, you know, I think it was towards the end of January. February, we were so busy, you know, with the holidays, and then John went out of town. But I still had to put zeros in the spreadsheet every month, and it really bugged me. So our family decided, okay, we're going to do this in February so that at least it doesn't have to be zeros for our whole community. So we counted our total sphere of influence, and we narrowed it down to our core contacts, and then I started just writing in my planner, okay, you know, I talked to my sister today, I did this, I did that, and at first it seemed pretty conditional. I mean, and sometimes it does. There's a little bit of a hurdle to get over so that you don't just feel like it's, you know, why am I doing this? But, you know, it actually helped me change my thinking to what am I doing today? How am I really making a difference in other people's lives on a daily basis? And, you know, for instance, a few days ago, I was actually not having a very inspired day. And towards the end of the day, I thought, oh gosh, I got a 0 today. I didn't do anything. And so then I emailed my younger sister who lives in Washington State, and I hadn't talked to her for a while. And my older sister lives here, and I talk to her all the time. And so, you know, my younger sister responded so quickly, and she said, I've been feeling so left out. And, you know, I could tell she was almost crying when she wrote her email back, that she's been feeling really left out because I'm always hanging out with my older sister, and my brother came to visit and she couldn't come. But just that little conditional act, it really made a difference for her. And even though I actually just kind of did it conditionally because I didn't want a 0 that day, it made a difference to somebody else. So, you know, I just really feel like if, you know, by focusing on what I'm doing each day, it helps change my thinking. It helps change my focus. Because all I really have control over is what I do anyway. I can't control anybody else. I can't even really control results. All I can do is make my investment. And it's just really exciting to me that if we track our efforts and if we start to do this together, you know, it can really help uplift the atmosphere of the whole community, and we can do it together. And by doing this, we inspire God, we inspire each other, and we inspire ourselves by focusing on, you know, these kind of positive actions. So I think that's it. Karen had a really good idea, very practical idea. She said, you know how a lot of people keep gratitude journals. If you just get a little notebook at the dollar store and just keep a love action journal, then at the end of the month, email John, you know, and then he'll send it to me or send it to both of us, and then at the end of the month, I just total it and put it in the spreadsheet. But I just thought it was a very exciting thing to focus on in their community. It's just becoming more loving people. And I think that's it. Thank you.